trails.
Hi, everybody, and welcome once again to Dystopian Simulation Radio. I'm your host, Chris,
And I'm Linz.
and together, we're Linz and Chris.
Yeah, we are. Together, we are the hosts of Dystopian Simulation Radio.
Yes, and we are back with a vengeance. We have got a very Halloween-inspired episode today, Linz, being Spooktober and all. But before we get into all of that, how are you doing?
Before we see how I'm doing, I see you mentioned that we're in Spooktober, and what I found particularly spooky was you having mad cow's disease, Chris.
Ah, yes, I did. There were signs that said "Don't lick the cows," and I took that as a challenge.
Yeah.
Yes.
So what the hell was that about?
So it's not CJD bovine one. I had hand, foot, and mouth disease, which my son kindly passed on to me from playgroup, which was just great. So I came out in spots and it's like stuff you get when you're a child. You know, you just you don't really think about this stuff as an adult.
No, I've actually never heard of it until you told me you had it, and I was like, "Excuse me," and then I made the mistake of looking it up and looking at pictures, and then you sent me a picture of your own scalp, and I actually audibly went, "Ew!"
Yeah, it was not a great time in my household for a couple of days.
Didn't look like a great time, Chris. It didn't look like one.
I actually had quite a mild case. Other people I know have caught it have been, they look like their hands are just turning white.
Oh God, just another thing to worry about, isn't it? Just something I didn't realize existed before.
You have, or you're around children regularly, you get all the diseases.
Yeah, I've noticed you are. There's not a month goes by where you're not ill in some capacity.
Every time you talk to me, I'm like, I'm dying.
Yes, it's true. It's true. I was really worried for your well-being, and now after this, I don't think I will be. I think I'll be like, oh, Chris has got his monthly disease.
Yeah, I'm fine until the 1st of November. And I'll get Guy Fawkes disease.
You just start to feel really hot.
Yeah, I'll spontaneously combust.
Yes. Ooh, another topic we should cover as well, I think.
That would have been a great segue. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, we're not doing that today.
Boo. All right, but yeah, how are you now, Chris? You feeling better?
I am much better. I'm much better. I'm back. I'm just pretty much, apart from a few sort of lingering spots, I'm fine. It's all back to normal again, which is all good. But the question is, Linz, how are you? That's what I ask first.
Yes,
turning this around.
Yeah, I'm good. I just rushed back from school to join you here and recording the episode. But touch wood, I'm okay right now at the moment. You can see how superstitious I am because I've had such a fucking terrible year. But today, I feel, can I say that? I'm looking left and right around the room. I feel okay. Yes. Let's
Good.
move on before I start to get anxious.
Swiftly. Okay, well, before we jump into stuff, we do, of course, want to say thank you to our Patreons. You are the lifeblood of us, by which I mean you pay for the podcast. So just a quick thank you to all of them. So you can, of course, join the Patreon, if you will, over at
patreon.com/dystopian simulation radio.
And thank you to all of our Patreon members. So in no particular order, thank you very much to Patrice, Ordained Sinister Minister, Devon Sweatshirt, Graves, Riff Cult, Cropley Crab, Cash Brodios, Creepy Paper, Jamie Sook, Spoof, Lindsay Keller, Mike Wright, Greer Reaver, Kelsey Carruthers, Linz Gibson, Drake Halvig, Only Child, Michael M., Wesley Akers, Riaz K, Emily Medeiros, The Toxic Avenger, Pip, and Philip
You know
Hoffman.
what? Seriously, thank you, because you are actually helping us host the podcast, and we really do appreciate like you being Patreons like every month. It's really, really doesn't go unappreciated. So thank you, really.
Yeah, thank you very much. And we've got some things in the pipeline, definitely. So watch this space or that space very soon. But thank you very much. If you'd like to support us, you can join our Patreon over at patreon.com/dystopian simulation radio. And there is the £1 supporter tier, and there is the £5 supporter tier as well. Okay,
Oh, and
so
also any images that go along with this episode, Chris, where can people find those?
they'll find those on our Instagram, which is at d.s.radio.
Yeah.
Thank you for keeping me on track. So, Linz, it is October,
Yes.
which can only mean one thing. We have ourselves an especially spooky case to look into, but honestly, we've been doing this for some time now. We've covered vampires, mummies, zombies, ghosts, aliens, even Hulk Hogan, all the Halloween classics. So finding those kind of spooky topics is getting a little harder, I will admit. But then, as I say, hunched over my manuscript, quill in hand, I gazed out of the window and I saw the moon. And I thought,
Oh.
that's it, the topic. What I've been looking for. This week we shall investigate. Is the moon really made of cheese?
Chris. Please tell me this is not the episode.
It's a little mini bonus episode. The answer is no. No, it's not. So as you can see, I needed a backup plan quite quickly. So I turned ever so slightly to the left, and upon this different angle of the moon, I thought, remember that time that we covered the moon landings and Buzz Aldrin punched a dude?
Yeah.
But then I turned ever so slightly more to the left and I realised something that we've not covered. Werewolves.
Oh, yes. I was really hoping you were going to say werewolves. When you said cheese, I got genuinely worried because I know you haven't been well. And I was like, oh God, please, no, don't let this be the end of it.
I've done all my research, Linz.
Mm-hmm.
I've watched all 5 Underworld movies.
Yeah, I'm sure with very great interest in the leather pants.
Exactly. And I'm ready to uncover the truth about werewolves today.
All
So,
right.
Linz, let's start with, what exactly is a werewolf? Care to take a stab?
Okay, a werewolf. I believe it is. I know there's a very old werewolf story. Like, there's a French guy who was accused of being a werewolf and like killed. Maybe he was burned at the stake or something. But I think generally it's like it's a curse, perhaps, where someone transforms into a werewolf under a full moon and goes around killing and maiming people, and they become this uncontrollable beast. And yeah, they're generally chained up in sheds or something at nighttime. I don't. Maybe that's the movie interpretation of a werewolf, but that's what I'm gonna say. That's my definition. I'm gonna stick with it.
Okay. I mean, you're hitting a lot of the major things there. Yes, it is a human who transforms into a wolf. Typically, when the moon is full and it goes about its wolfy business,
Mm-hmm.
when they otherwise would be on the couch watching reruns of Takeshi's Castle.
I might be a werewolf.
They're also excellent timekeepers. Always ask them the time. As long as you're polite.
What's the time, Mr. Okay, right. That took a minute.
Or as one Urban Dictionary user, Sad Beanie Boy here states, a werewolf is a sad boy who just wants pets, but people keep running away from him. When used in a sentence, look, it's a werewolf, let's go pet it. Happy werewolf noises.
I never want to hear that again.
Mm. Linz, on
Yes.
goodreads.com, how many books do you think are tagged under werewolf erotica?
Oh my god. Probably it's in the thousands, especially after Twilight. Yeah. Oh my god, thousands.
Or goodreads.com, that's a fairly mainstream site.
Yes.
There's probably other ones out there. So there was only 530.
Oh.
So,
Okay.
quite,
Oh, I guess yeah. Published is a different matter, but that's
yeah.
still a lot for for Werewolf Erotica.
Top rated? It's got to be Feral Sins, The Phoenix Pack #1 by Suzanne Wright at 3.99 stars. Average review.
Suzanne, you pervert.
So let's talk about wolves. Humanity has long had a fearful image of the wolf. How do you feel about wolves, Linz?
Well, they live amongst us here in Sweden. So yeah, I think they're beautiful. I think in England I think we hunted them to extinction a few hundred years ago,
Yeah, wolves
right?
and bears used to be
Well,
here.
yeah, we used to I think the last one probably wasn't um they're probably in Scotland or something, and then we killed the last of those. Um, but yeah, they're beautiful. I don't think they attack humans as much as it's portrayed in the sort of media. I think they keep to themselves, but yeah, they it can be scary to hear a wolf howling in the distance at night. I'll say that. But yeah.
You're very right about that. Their howls ringing out in a
Mm-hmm.
darkened forest at night as they gather in their packs, prowling, running, hunting, close to the meat.
Was that a spaced reference?
I love you. Um, Nowadays, we don't think much about wolves in day to day life. Usually, it's pretty unusual that a family member will be eaten by one. It's not something that you generally need insurance for.
Speak for
However,
yourself.
mm, the danger level is never zero.
Yeah.
There have been 4 wolf attacks on humans this year alone, including 2 deadly ones.
Ooh.
In January, a wolf entered a Russian resort and attacked 4 people, killing a 60-year-old woman. In June, a woman was attacked by 3 wolves whilst jogging in France.
What?
Mhm. In
Rural
July,
France?
uh, uh, just by the Arc de Triomphe.
Gay Paris. Let's not go back to France. We've offended too many people recently, Chris.
July, a young girl was attacked by a wolf in a nature reserve in the Netherlands,
Oh, God.
and a dog was killed the following week, presumably by a wolf. And finally, between March and September this year, 10 people were killed and more than 30 injured when a pack of 6 wolves began a campaign of terror across a region in India.
India.
Mm. And
Oh, yeah.
if you
Okay.
think that's bad, 210 people were attacked in 2020 alone in Russia by wolves.
Gosh. Yeah. I mean, I was thinking you were going to say like somewhere in America for some reason, but yeah, Russia, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about that, 2020 in Russia, that's quite something, as everyone was supposedly in their homes then,
Not
which
in Russia.
leads, well, it leads me to believe that either people were being very naughty in Russia or wolves have their own lockpickers.
But that's crazy though. They must live somewhere very like rural, and the
Mm,
wolves must have been very hungry to just like start preying on humans.
mm.
That's crazy because like, there's a lot of wolves in Sweden, but it's very rare you'll see one. I have seen them, but Yeah. Ooh, interesting. In India. And I didn't think that was going to come up, but I suppose they do have wolves. I mean, oh, yeah. It's just weird because like I said, we hunted them to extinction, so it's not something we really think about that much.
No.
But yeah, I did think you were going to say somewhere in the US, but obviously
Mm.
they've got it under control, so.
But we will not demonize the poor wolf here. But it's clear that once they have a taste for human meat, they will not stop.
We'll not demonize them, but they're coming for you.
I'm not saying there's one behind you right now, but statistically, there might be.
There probably
Run!
is. I live next to a forest.
I mean, it's either that they have this taste for human meat or that their territory has been so ravaged by human activity that they're drawn ever closer to human civilization to find food. But the first
Yes.
one is far more dramatic. Awoo. So, Linz,
Yes.
can you name any real or fictional wolves or wolfmen?
There's that one French guy, Wolf, from the probably the 16 or 1700s. I don't know his name, but I'm just gonna go. He was called the Pierre something. I don't know.
Okay,
One French guy that I don't know the name of. Another
great
wolf.
list.
The wolf from Nightmare Before Christmas.
Okay,
I love that wolf. I have a figure of him. The, oh, American Werewolf in London. That wolf.
okay.
Don't know names again, but just naming characters. Who else do I know? Werewolf. Oh, the Twilight guy. The Twilight Jacob. I don't know. I know his name for some reason.
Mhm.
Oh my gosh. I'm so panicked. Werewolf. Mm, I think that's the extent of it, right? Oh, there's this one Indian movie with terrible special effects where a man turns into a werewolf, but they just stop and start the recording, and he has bits of hair on his face every time they start it again. Um, and maybe Michael Jackson was probably a werewolf at some point. I don't know.
Well, you've hit on a few of the biggies there. I've got a list here that I put
Yes.
together. Firstly, most famous, Wolf from Gladiators.
Damn it.
The American journalist Wolf Blitzer.
Stop it.
Just in general, the Wolfman.
The Wolfman.
Mm,
Oh, just of the Wolfman of the Wolfman.
yes.
Okay, yes.
Ozzy Osbourne in the Bark at the Moon music video.
Yes, that's a good one.
Yeah. The Wolves faction from The Last of Us Part 2, which is...
Wolf Brigade, the Swedish D-beat band.
There you go. The Big Bad Wolf from Little Red Riding Hood.
Oh, of course.
Just the Wolf from The Three Little Pigs.
Mm-hmm.
Arkela from The Jungle Book.
Ooh.
Arkela
Okay.
from The Jungle Book.
Is that just that was in the book itself? Never translated over to movie. Was there a wolf in the Jungle Book?
I hope so, because it's on my list.
Oh. Okay.
As you said, movies, we've got things like Teen Wolf, American Werewolf, both in London and Paris. Eddie Munster.
Eddie Munster. Oh yes, the little boy was a wolf.
Yes, he was a little wolf.
Cute.
Take your pick from Underworld, Twilight, like you said, Jacob Black, or any modern movie of the genre. Possibly the most famous wolf, Lupa, the she-wolf that nursed Romulus and Remus in the legend that birthed Rome.
Yes.
As you said, Michael Jackson in the Thriller music video. Sonic the Hedgehog's alter ego, Sonic the Werehog.
Excuse me?
It's a game.
Okay.
Okay. And finally, Shakira, who may or not be a
She-wolf.
werewolf, but she did educate us that there was a she-wolf in the club. AWOOOOOOOOO.
Awoo.
So either she is one, or she's very responsibly warning everybody about it.
Oh, and also the wolf that oh no, maybe he was just a regular wolf. The wolf that used to look at Bugs Bunny when he was cross dressing and go awooga. But I think he was just a regular wolf.
The list goes on. And
yes.
Wolves have been entwined with human fears and tales since the dawn of human civilization. One of our earliest foes in the battle for survival, it's no wonder that the wolf emerged as a tale of other humans, you know, turning into werewolves and being compelled at that point to turn into a feral beast, conducting its wicked wolfy business, and then, when returning to its human form, having no memory of the carnage that it's created, at least in the traditional tales. But where did this all come from? Any idea? Why do we first kind of pick up on werewolves, people turning into werewolves throughout history?
Mm, I feel like it had something to do with the church. Maybe people, like people were paranoid about witches. Maybe they were like in the same breath, kind of paranoid about wolves. I don't know. Probably like the medieval period, or no, probably like a lot earlier. Gosh, I don't know. I feel like the church has something to do with this.
Well, you are hitting on a few things there. Interesting what you said about witches. We'll come
Yeah.
to that later, but no, it actually all started with the Greeks.
Hmm.
Um, and we can find the first real references to werewolves in history coming from, Greeks. I tried to read into them, but unfortunately, it was all Greek to me.
You're so stupid.
I am told, though, by somebody who does understand Greek, that Herodotus told tale of the Scythians, who were certain tribes who would turn into wolves once a year, although he does admit that this might be a load of rubbish.
I think it's true.
Mm, of course, the Greeks are largely tied up with their gods, and Zeus wasn't opposed to turning somebody into a wolf. He did this on more than one occasion, but he also turned himself into a swan to make love to human women, so he clearly wasn't that familiar with how humans kind of do things. Augustine, an early Christian writer, stated that it is very generally believed that by certain witches' spells, men may be turned into wolves.
Mm,
Which is an interesting twist that I hadn't heard of before. Um, you know, I hadn't thought about the connection between witches and werewolves.
really?
No, I didn't know that they were in league with each other.
Yeah, of course. Like it's just, I don't know, maybe it was all the Catholic schooling that I went through. But had an inkling.
Moving into the Middle Ages, and belief in werewolves was now commonplace in many cultures. Of course, it was the style at the time to transform into animals, not just wolves. According to well known medieval knowledge, it wasn't uncommon for the right person to turn into a cat or a snake, so why would wolves be any different? Although these tend to be tales of people turning into actual wolves and not, you know, what we are thinking of as wolfmen or werewolves per
Yeah,
se.
there's a difference, right? Like
Yeah.
just being a wolf and then just sort of being a werewolf. Like a werewolf. Like I guess being a wolf, you just go around doing wolfy things, but
Mm.
a werewolf is like someone who has a drunken blackout and becomes violent. Like it's a completely different beast, literally.
Love. Mm. Well, in the 11th century, that's where we get our first use of the term werewolf, which comes out of Germany.
Oh.
And the Norse, I mean, well, they've been banging on about wolves and wolf people since seemingly the beginning of time. We then find ourselves in the 16th century, where witch hunts were all the rage. But did you know, and maybe you did, because you sort of mentioned this before, but did you, dear audience, did you know that there were also werewolf hunts and werewolf trials, not just witch hunts and witch trials?
Yeah, and they were more popular. I think not so much in the UK, but in Europe, right?
Hmm.
France I know did it, and probably Germany. Now that you mention it.
Mm. Well, this brings us to an interesting case, which is the first case that we can look at as somebody who may actually be a werewolf. So we're going to look at the case of Peter Stump.
Yes, that's the guy.
Ah.
Peter, who knows?
Also German, not French, but never mind. He
Close
he
enough.
he is a bona fide, genuine werewolf from history. Peter was a German farmer and possibly a serial killer, but he was most definitely a big bad wolf.
Yes, I'm so glad that you are telling us this story because I had some weird far off knowledge. But as you can tell, I don't remember shit about it.
Well, Stump may or may not have been his real surname, as poor Peter was missing his left hand. And
Ooh.
this might mean that it was his surname, or it might have been a joke or an unfortunate coincidence. We don't know. It's been lost to history.
It's a really cruel nickname.
Yeah. Peter was unfortunately accused of being a werewolf because a wolf that had been blamed for killings, that we're going to get into later, was missing a left paw.
Ooh,
Damning evidence. But you know what was even more damning, Lindsay?
what's that?
Peter confessed.
Oh, did he?
Yes, he admitted that yes, he was a werewolf. I mean, I must mention that he did confess after being subjected to all kinds of torture, including the stretching rack. So there
Oh,
might just be,
God.
like a teeny weeny, tiny little incy wincy bit of duress involved. But he did
Yeah.
admit it.
A confession that would not fly today.
No. He did, in fact, admit that he'd been practicing black magic since he was 12.
Hmm. Well, he
He,
kind of probably had to just to make it all stop.
he claimed that the devil himself had appeared to him and given him a magical belt, sometimes a magical girdle, which allowed him to transform Power Ranger style into a rampaging wolf beast.
Well, we've all got a girdle like that.
TMI. TMI.
Shut up, Love Hotel.
In fact, Peter said he could transform into.
The likeness of a greedy, devouring wolf, strong and mighty, with eyes great and large, which in the night sparkled like fire, a mouth great and wide, with most sharp and cruel teeth, a huge body, and mighty paws.
And to be fair, he also admitted that the devil sent him a succubus that he had relations with.
I mean, you got to get something out of it.
Mm, true. Get your bus sucked.
What? You cannot see. Chris. That's terrible. Do you even know what you've said?
just makes sense. I always assumed that succubus was a portmanteau of suck and bus.
You've got to use your favorite word again.
Stump was accused of having gone on a 25-year rampage of insatiable blood-sucking, which sounds a little bit more like they should have been looking for a vampire, but let's not get in the way of a good story here. He reportedly knew no limits, gorging on the flesh of common farmyard animals, all the way through to women and children. Not men, though. It's too gamey. Now, this next sort of little bit is a bit violent, so content warning regarding violence against children and babies for the next minute or so. It's
Oh.
going to be pretty light. I'm not going to go into too much detail here, but just content warning for people. So fast forward on around a minute. Peter admitted to having killed and eaten 14 children, including his own son, who he devoured the brains of. He also admitted to having killed 2 pregnant women and having taken wolfy delight in devouring their fetuses after having ripped them from the womb, describing them as dainty morsels. But what of the magical belt that allowed him to commit such heinous acts? He described in vivid detail where he'd left it. But when the magistrate sent an investigation party, the devil must have taken it back, because it was gone, gone, gone.
Or just Okay.
Peter was not a nice man.
No, but also he was tortured into saying all this, which could have been pre-written. So I kind of feel like maybe he was a normal guy that just, like, I don't know, walked into the wrong court case.
Well, Peter and his daughter Beale, whom he was in an incestuous relationship with, and his
No.
and his mistress Catherine were all sentenced to death. Peter was sentenced to one of the most vicious and brutal deaths ever recorded. He was placed on a wheel where red hot pincers ripped the flesh from his body in 10 places, before then having those pincers applied to ripping the flesh of his arms and legs. Speaking of his limbs, they were then broken one by the blunt side of an axe before he was beheaded and had his body burned on a pyre along with the ladies in his life who had been flayed and strangled. Peter's head was then displayed on a special spike featuring the wheel to remind those of the punishment given for being a wolf. And then it also featured a big wooden wolf just to drive it home.
Jesus Christ. Okay. It's kind of, it's a weird thing because, like, you mentioned, like, at the beginning that he'd been tortured into saying these things. So it
Mm-hmm.
kind of makes you think, did he really do it? Or did they just, like, kind of pre-write some story and make him confess to it? And it's actually a really terrible thing to hear in all sorts of ways, to be honest.
Mm. Well,
Yeah, the torturing, you've got to have a very strong stomach to sort of be the torturer. I don't know if they just had a lot of moonshine back then or something, but Jesus Christ. Oh,
well,
that's
would you like to see a picture?
of okay, it's a drawing. They didn't have, yes,
An
okay.
artist's interpretation.
I was like, excuse me, but then I remembered it was like, when was this? The
15th century.
16th century. Oh, wow. Okay, there's a lot going on here. Okay, I see. We're seeing, like, it's a black and white sort of drawing, or like an etched drawing of the It's a sequence of the torture. So, got the werewolf, which, yeah, they've the way we think about a werewolf is like more like a big muscly kind of man with a bit of hair on him and the kind of wolf face, but this is more like a man wolf than a wolf man.
Mm,
It's a wolf standing up like a man, kind of going raw and taking someone away, and he's very dog-like. He's not the werewolf that we know in the sort of from like the movies and things. And that's him doing his stuff, and then he's been caught, and the torture is. What am I looking at? The first picture here. Um, is that some kind of saw? Like, what is? There's
I
a
think
man holding.
I think that is a blindfold of some description
Okay,
that's
so
been
this is,
placed over his
what
face.
was his name? Peter Stump.
Peter Stump.
Peter Stump. So Peter's on a wheel. He's naked. He's got a little bit of cloth, but I'm sure he didn't have that in reality. And then the next scene, he's being beaten with a stick. He looks worse for wear. And then the third scene, his head is getting cut off with his sword. And then he's being dragged into. Oh, no, he's being dragged to three people burning on sticks. So I guess that was the sort of end of it. But yeah, it's very detailed, and
Mm.
you get a very good. It's a very good warning for any other werewolf men out there. Stop being a werewolf because this will happen. Yeah. I'm not sure you get a choice to stop being a werewolf, but maybe that's why they started chaining themselves inside of sheds and whatnot. Yeah.
Mm.
It's all making sense now. Yeah, but this is the first, like, recorded werewolf case, isn't it? The Peter Stump
I don't know
thing.
if it's. I think yeah, you might be right on the first recorded one. I think it's from the way that everyone's acting here. I think
Oh,
it's
I've just
clear.
noticed something. Peter Stump has two arms in this, two hands.
Oh, he does. You are
Yeah,
very right.
yeah. Not
This must
not
be
very stumpy.
this must be his brother.
Biergerstump. No,
Yeah.
Bierger Almond. I don't know. But yeah, maybe that was just a. I guess this person had it described to them by dictation. they
Yeah.
didn't they didn't see Pierre de Stump getting his head lopped off. Yeah, that wow. There's a big crowd as well there in the
I mean,
background.
witches' trials,
Yeah,
werewolves,
awful
killings,
scene.
you know. Remember, Netflix wasn't invented for around 4,500 years.
Yeah, and in the early 2000s, they were still sending out physical DVDs.
Yeah.
It probably took them a while to get.
It
Yeah,
took
but
them ages.
this is horrific. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember you and I going to the hangings because we were just busy waiting for Shaun of the Dead to arrive.
We were just so bored.
Yeah. So, Linz, did he
Yes.
do it? Was Peter a werewolf? What do you think?
I'm gonna say no. I think it's just he was probably just a weird guy and they just decided to come like there was probably some murders or deaths in the area and then some sort of religious or superstitious people were probably just like, "Oh, it's some kind of beast." And then they saw a guy who had like a stump for an arm and went, "It must be him. God
Must be
cursed
old
him."
Stumpy.
Yeah, God's cursed him with a stump, so he must be demonic in some capacity. That's usually how it went. It was the same for witches, like a single lady who had cats. They're like, familiars. She's not married. She's like a demonic in some way. So I don't know. Like, I hope that, like, in an awful way, I hope it was true. Otherwise, they've just tortured some poor man for being different. I don't know what to say. There's no nice way of saying it. Yeah, maybe he didn't do it, but if he didn't do it, he got horribly tortured just for being some guy with a no hand, which is
Mm.
horrible. If he did do it, like maybe you could have just put him in a cage. I don't know.
They could
It's
have
all
made money with
awful.
him if they took him on the road.
Yeah, could have made a picture out of it. Yeah, but what do you think, Chris?
Well,
You probably
given
know.
the, I don't know. I
Oh
wasn't
no,
there.
nobody no. So there's no conclusion. We just have to
No,
speculate. Okay.
exactly.
Oh, okay.
But given the fact that the magical belt was never recovered, I'm going to go with no. The
Imagine that. A
one,
magical belt was never
mm,
recovered.
one key bit of evidence given by the devil himself, mind you, was missing. So I'm going to go
Hmm.
with no. He wasn't a werewolf. It's been proposed that Peter may have been delusional. He may have been an actual serial killer that was caught up in the wolf hysteria, or,
Yeah.
as you rightly said, he might have just been tortured into signing a confession.
Yeah, I mean he could have been a serial killer, couldn't he? Um yeah, it's hard to know. You can't trust those times, really.
Mm. Okay, so how about Theus of Kaltenbrunn, your very own Swedish werewolf?
Oh.
This all happened in 1692 when a man in his 80s came forward to claim that he was indeed a werewolf. But twist, he was noble and heroic. He was a werewolf fighting for the side of all things good and decent. You could say he was a very good boy.
Okay.
Thies claimed that he had once been a beggar, but a rascal had drunk a toast to him, which gave him the ability to turn into a wolf. Now, you might be thinking at this stage, what? And I would forgive you, but apparently this can be done, should you wish to try it at home, by breathing into a jug 3 times and then proclaiming into the jug, "You will become like me."
What?
If another party then drinks from the jug, they will become a werewolf.
Wait, so you're saying that we can practice this as an experiment?
We can do, but I do believe one of the parties has to be a werewolf first. So unless you're about to drop a bombshell here,
Well, Chris. No.
I'm I'm not sure how
It's a good way to
good.
find out.
Yeah, I'm not sure how a good method of turning someone into a werewolf this is, but it is a fantastic way to get the latest strain of COVID.
Which there is apparently.
Mm, I can't wait for that to come back. Great. However, with this newfound power, Thys and other werewolves would venture into hell to battle the devil and his band of hideously loyal, evil witches.
Ooh.
They, the werewolves, would apparently beat the witches with long iron rods and chase them like dogs. Which, I mean, wolves chasing dogs?
Well, they do
That,
probably. They're like, how
mm,
dare you be domesticated, you rich boys.
mm. It just seems to me like two teams playing in the same colours.
Yeah, but
Uh,
it's sort of like the north-south divide, isn't it, Chris?
yeah. Anyway, why am I trying to reason this?
Exactly.
Apparently, werewolves are the servants of God, not the devil. Something that immediately and immensely confused the magistrates who are looking into these claims. These claimed the reason that they went to hell was to recover stolen crops in order to save the harvest for the coming year, which the witches naturally stole. The judges were perplexed by this and began going back to their bread and butter, asking Thys if he regularly attended church, which he did not.
Uh-oh.
He'd also gained a reputation as a local folk magician, invoking charms for the local communities to bless crops and so on. One of these charms involved administering blessed salt into warm beer whilst reciting these words.
Sun and moon go over the sea, fetch back the soul that the devil had taken to hell, and give the cattle back life and health which was taken from them.
The judges quickly noticed that there was no mention of God in this charm,
Ah,
and thus sentenced Thys to be flogged and banished from the community,
oh.
which is quite something, as Thys wasn't actually accused of doing anything and was in fact a witness in the case of a church robbery.
And also, like, putting salt in things, that's very Christian too, isn't it? Sort of like warding off evil spirits.
Mm,
He's just not been specific. I feel like he had an enemy in the ranks or something.
I mean, quite possibly. Imagine sentencing the witness to flogging and banishment.
Like, that is just like, what? He had an enemy somewhere.
Mm.
Snakes everywhere, Chris. Snakes, I'm telling you.
Well, as it turned out later, Thys had actually appeared in court several years earlier and claimed that a local farmer had broken his nose, not in a fight over sheep, but in the depths of hell. For that farmer was a witch, and he was battling them in hell when his nose was broken. And then he then decided
Mm.
to try and sue them in the land of the living. The judges at the time laughed him out of the court, but it was verified that his nose was broken.
Okay. Well, maybe he just broke it in the mortal world.
Quite possibly.
And I don't know if you heard that on the mic, but Black Mask, which is my cat, he just did his we call it the announcement. It's where he goes dong dong on his water bowl before he drinks. Hopefully that came through because it was perfect timing.
I didn't hear that, but I'll listen to it on
Oh,
the playback.
yeah.
Now, Linz, so we've
Yes.
investigated a couple of cases here with some somewhat dubious results. But how does one become a werewolf?
Ooh, you know what? That's a good question because with a vampire, you get bitten. I feel like with a werewolf, it's either hereditary or some kind of curse, I imagine.
Interesting. Well, there are various methods suggested, as
Thank
previously
God.
discussed. There's magical items of clothing,
Oh,
often which
oh,
are made out of wolf's pelt, and they can do the trick. If you
right.
rub yourself with a magical ointment, that can also do it. Uh, Drinking rainwater from a werewolf's footprint, well, if you do that one, it's kind of your fault.
Oh, I didn't know this. This is amazing. Drinking rainwater from a werewolf's footprint.
Mm.
I might try that. It's a
Report back.
definitely. I'm gonna probably get a bowler or something.
sleeping outside on either a Wednesday or a Friday, if it's a full moon, can cause you to become a werewolf.
Wait. If tomorrow is a full moon, we could test this and
Could
report
do.
back. Okay.
As we talked about, somebody toasting you and breathing heavily into the glass can curse one to become a werewolf. Satan can also sign off becoming a werewolf without further paperwork. It can sometimes be divine punishment from the gods. Magicians and witches can curse you to wandering the night as a shaggy dog. St. Patrick, known for his hatred of snakes, was absolutely fine with wolves and cursed a Welsh king to becoming a werewolf using his vengeful power of a Christian saint.
Yes.
There are a couple of other ways, just worth mentioning. Being a werewolf
You wuss.
It can be a case of possession. A wolf spirit can take over one's body and compel it to pee on all the lampposts in the vicinity. Most commonly, though, in modern day law, it could be a scratch or a bite that turns one into a werewolf initially, and it can also be passed down hereditarily, as you mentioned.
Right. Okay. I like
now,
this.
Now that you're a werewolf, and you've transformed on the full moon, what are you doing?
Okay, werewolf on a full moon. What do? I mean, according to the movies and apparently history too, from what you've told me, they just go around murdering, like serial killing. It's just violence against humans. I'm not sure what kind of humans, but they seem to just be blackout and violent. I don't know what the purpose of it all is. Do they need to is it like a vampire? Like, do they need to drink blood on the full moon, or do they need to take a victim? How does that work?
It's more of a sort of feral,
Right, just
desire.
blackout violence.
Yeah, just
Right.
straight up violence. There's not the romanticism. Well, some people on Goodreads.com and other places might disagree with me on this.
The places that you frequent.
Yeah.
The erotica websites.
There's not the sort of same level of romanticism of werewolves as there is with vampires, but they tend to spend their time digging up corpses of the recently deceased in order to feast on their flesh. That's a common pastime.
Wait.
However,
wait, what? They dig up dead bodies and feast on them?
Mm-hmm. The recently deceased. They're not.
So
they're
kind
not
of like
animals.
ghouls. So like they feast on ghouls, kind of.
Yeah, kind of.
Oh, okay.
However, as you mentioned, though, if they're not readily available, if there's not a graveyard in the vicinity, they will just go a hunting and kill fresh meat.
Okay.
I mean, I also assume they've got to do other things. They've probably got to do their accounts at some point. But generally, they are rampaging throughout the land. And in most tales, werewolves lose control of themselves and commit heinous acts of murders. Some other tales, they do maintain their intelligence, and in many modern tales, they get freaky with neighborhood ladies.
Sorry.
What the fuck was that?
It was Black Mask. Sorry. Sorry. I had a treat and I didn't want to give him it yet, and he got angry.
Oh my god.
He came up for the treat.
You just given me and all of the listeners a fucking jump scare.
I've never actually heard you scared before. He jumped up and he wanted a treat, and I moved it, and he got angry.
Wow. Okay.
You scared yourself with your werewolf stories. Sorry, that just really got me. Did that sound scary?
It was jumped terrifying. Right in my ear.
That's the sound effect for the episode. Black Mask, you're so mean.
Where was I?
Sorry, as you were.
Yeah, they in many modern tales they also have a bit of a penchant for getting freaky with ladies. But
Oh,
you can go to our Patreon for that.
you know what? I think it has been a long time
Oh no,
since we. It's been a long time
I
since
haven't
Chris read us
recovered
some
from
erotica.
no, I haven't recovered from the Bigfoot case.
Come on, you know you love that Bigfoot erotica. No, but I think Halloween calls for.
Oh God. Okay, okay, okay. So
Okay, okay.
you've
So
got a rap.
werewolves also sleep with ladies,
Yes.
right? So they're considered sexy, like vampires and the rest of those
Yeah.
characters.
There's
Okay.
there's some definite communities online, but skipping past that, you have a you have a werewolf rampaging in your village, and it's up to you to stop it. How are you going to stop it, Linz?
Oh, silver bullet.
Ooh,
Oh
got it in
no.
one.
Okay.
No, you
Yes.
got it in
Yes.
one, but
A silver
it's
bullet with a cross etched on it for extra
ah
protection.
perfect, perfect. But before we get to modern days, there were some other ways to do it.
Ooh.
The Greeks believed you could cure someone of their wolfy affliction by exhausting them, hence why they invented the Olympics. Romans believed the same, however, in medieval times, it was believed the plant wolfsbane could be used to medicinally cure somebody of being a werewolf.
Ah.
There were surgical options, but generally they ended in death. So, not really a cure.
It'd probably just go, let's remove the heart because it's a wolf's heart. And then, oh, why is he dead?
Uh, Exorcism was also on the menu. Sic-
Right.
Sicilians believe that you can smack a werewolf on the head with the broad side of a knife and say, no, no, bad boy,
A
bad
spray
boy.
bottle of holy water. Stop
Mm.
it.
But of course, obviously, in Italian, and that would cure the curse. Germans believed that you could say the werewolf's Christian name 3 times and that would remove the curse, which is sort of like a reverse Candyman situation.
Ooh. Yeah.
The
Hairy
Danish
wolf, hairy wolf, hairy wolf.
The Danish believed that having a right go at the werewolf and giving it a good scolding would reverse the situation, whilst most Christians believe that converting the werewolf to Christianity would do the trick.
Oh, God. Anyone who's not a Christian is a beast of the devil. Yeah, classic.
And as you mentioned, in many modern stories, it is a silver bullet, not originating from but popularized by the brothers Grimm. A silver bullet is said to be something that will do the trick against werewolves and, in fact, other things that go bump in the night, as
So
they're all
sort of,
supposedly weak to silver.
yeah, so sort of like a German historically. Yeah, I silver, I guess, it is actually medicinal silver in itself. Like, isn't it like an antiseptic in a way? Like you can actually get plasters or like what do you call them, like band-aids with silver in. It's
Ah,
actually, yeah. And
I
mirrors
thought you
used
were
to
just going
be.
to tell me to go and lick all my silverware.
Do you have actual silver cutlery? I
No,
don't. I don't
no,
feel like you you would have it, but
it's plastic
yeah.
or nothing in this house.
Stainless. Yeah, but yeah, mirrors used to be made out of silver as well, which is why vampires can't see their own reflections apparently.
Oh, really? So that's because of
Yeah.
the silver
Mhm.
content in them.
Yeah, the mirrors used to be made with silver.
Ah.
I have a few antique mirrors with silver in them. But yeah, not so much now, but so that makes a lot of sense. I guess it's like it has medicinal properties actually, but I wonder where it sort of came from with the whole bullet thing and maybe who knows.
Well,
I guess
I think
maybe a
it's
listener
more of
will.
a. I think that silver traditionally was probably that they could use a knife made of it or something like
Yeah.
that. But when it came to the invention of guns, just launching some silver directly into a wolf's evil body was probably the quickest method of delivery.
Yeah, sure.
Could have done a
Maybe
silver
maybe
tipped
some.
arrow.
Yeah, maybe some listeners know more than that. I think it does have medicinal property. Well, I know it has medicinal properties, but who knows? I guess it wasn't as expensive back then to manufacture a silver. No, it probably was.
Mm,
Let's see.
well,
If you know,
congratulations.
write in.
Well, congratulations. You're not a werewolf anymore, but
Yay!
you might have a bullet lodged in you, which is a different set of problems that you now have to deal with. So, Linz, what do you think? Werewolves, are they running about out there?
You know what? This is going to sound terrible because of the nature of what they do, but I kind of hope so. I think it's just one of those sort of other versions of like vampires. It's a type of undead immortal being that for some reason we've made sexy. Like vampire and werewolf to me, they kind of go hand in hand in a way. Like are vampires immortal? I mean, are werewolves immortal?
Oh, um,
I
I
think so.
the first result here is from Reddit, which obviously means it's guaranteed correct. And it says they have longer lives than humans, but not immortal. They might die
Right.
around the age 300 to 400.
Oh, so not totally. Oh, but then again, a werewolf. That kind of makes sense because a vampire can never walk in the daylight elements. Like it can't go out in the sun. It's like, it's got a quota of like blood drinking to do. But a werewolf, it lives as a human, but during the full moon it transforms. So that kind of makes sense that it's not immortal. And it just kind of violently rages. So yeah, that kind of in a weird fucking way it makes sense that they're not immortal but they live longer. Huh. Okay. Yeah, I mean for me, I like the fantasy of it all in a non-erotic way. I just want to state
Hmm.
that. Unlike Chris, who likes to turn on the Patreons.
That's saying more about them than me.
True. They did demand it. I kind of do hope they're a thing. But I kind of more wish that there was actual wolves in England still.
Mm.
But
Although I think that there are some rewilding plans. I don't know if they're done or not, but I mean, England is a completely different topic. But England's got one of the lowest amounts of forest in the world, so there were plans to
really?
sort of rewild things. Yeah.
Mm, okay. Um right. Well, I don't know, Chris. I mean, I've always hoped that there was vampires and werewolves. I've always hoped that like since childhood. I don't know why. I think a lot of people are like, yeah, I'll be immortal, I'll be powerful, I'll be this and that. Um, but I feel like the vampires are the more like sort of sophisticated versions of that.
Yeah.
They're always good looking and young and rich and attractive. But the werewolf is kind of like a rural character that is just like violent occasionally and just lives as a regular person and doesn't seem to have much benefits. So I kind of hope that they don't exist for their own sake because it just sounds awful. Like at least with a vampire, you get some kind of benefits of from like being a vampire, but a werewolf just seems like a miserable, violent thing you can't control. So I hope they don't exist. But I,
Mm.
for some reason, do want to sleep outside on Wednesday/Thursday night. Can't remember what I said, but yeah, I think it was Thursday.
Thursday night.
Thursday. I kind of do want to. I mean, I suppose that people all over the world have slept outside on a Thursday night on a full moon, and they're not werewolves. So I'm thinking, no, they're not real, and that the
Or are
church
they?
just wanted to. Or that I kind of feel like the church just wanted to kill a bunch of extra people.
That too.
But I hope vampires are real because we did do an episode on vampires last
Mm.
year, which everyone should check out. Because it seems to work out a lot better for them
Which
for a while.
which do you think is more likely? A
Vampire.
werewolf or a vampire? A vampire, really?
I mean, to be honest, it doesn't take supernatural abilities to be a werewolf. You just have to be a person who is violent on occasion, which is like the population that we usually imprison. So maybe it's more likely that people would be a werewolf, but I think it would be more fun if people were vampires. Because if I was a vampire, I would just like, I mean, they're alive forever. They all seem to have old money. So I'd just make a hospital where you paid like premium for people to donate blood and then ethically drink that blood. But with a werewolf, you're just like a psychopath now and again, which I don't like. And I think a lot of people are. What about you? What like you've researched this, you've been obviously been reading into it for at least a week. So what do you think?
Um, I think that werewolves are just silly enough to not be a thing. I think the idea of so it depends how you define stuff. So if you are saying which is more likely, somebody to be a vampire, someone to be a werewolf, it is far easier to, get fangs implanted and claim to be a vampire. As we've covered, there are people out there who live a vampiric lifestyle
Yes.
than it is to, glue patches of hair to yourself and run around eating children.
Oh, but now you say that, there was like back in the days when they had like the quote unquote freak shows, um, where they would have like people who just grew excessive hair and then they would say like the wereboy or like the
Uh,
wereman come and see them. So I mean like it doesn't take that much to be a werewolf other than the transformation part of it is the difficult part. Otherwise, the rest of it is just kind of like doable, if that makes sense. Like now and again you're just a big hairy angry man
yes.
if you're a werewolf. So I mean, there's not that much to it other than the supernatural ability to transform and black out, which doesn't seem very fun. It's kind of like a disease you don't want, kind of like I have, but without the violence. So
So I
I
think
hope they
is
don't exist, to be honest.
I think you're speaking of hypertrichosis when it comes
Yes.
to people, which is also known as werewolf syndrome, where
Yes.
somebody is basically just, has got hair all of
They're
their
just a
body.
bit
Cute,
hairy,
cute,
you know?
cute, cute. How have you gone this far without making a joke about me?
Oh my god, yeah, Chris, you are a werewolf.
Oh,
No,
I
because
got there first.
we always call you Bigfoot, but I like, Bigfoot is a friendly, tall character who's a bit hairy. I don't associate you with sort of a incest rapist, a hairy, violent man, which is why I
Oh,
didn't come up with a joke. So in a way, it was all love.
oh, thank you for that. That's the nicest thing you've ever said to me.
I say so many nice things about you.
No, but that's the nicest.
Yeah, I mean,
You're not a
are you okay?
rampaging murderer.
You're not a
Thank you.
psychopath? You are very hairy, but in a friendly way.
Well, Linz, that brings us to the conclusion of our discussion on the werewolf. So we'd love to hear from yourselves at home. What do
From
you think?
werewolves.
From yeah, if you are a werewolf, please let us know. We'd love to hear.
We
We'll
won't
happily
torture you.
stand corrected. No, no, there'll be no Peter Stumping happening here. But yeah, any last thoughts on werewolves before we go howl at the moon?
No, I think we've covered everything. I've really enjoyed this. Like I've been watching a lot of not so much horror. Like I watch some horror and some thriller things on Netflix right now to get into the mood. And this has really like pushed me because the pumpkins have started coming out right now and the Halloween stuff and the ghost things. And now you've presented this werewolf episode. I truly feel Halloweeny. So I'm like, I'm ready. So I'm so happy that you covered this because my next episode, which does come out on Halloween, is in the paranormal realm. And not to give too much away, but it's a little bit creepy and a little bit haunty. So I'm glad that you've kicked off October in a really good way.
A little
Let's
bit
say that.
spooky.
A little bit spooky.
Excellent. Well, I shall wait for that. But until then, everybody, please, keep an eye on that full moon that's coming out. I want to say keep watching the skies, but keep watching a specific place in the sky.
Keep watching that cheese wheel in the sky.
Yeah. Although, to be fair, if you keep watching the moon, then you might leave yourself open and vulnerable to werewolf attacks. So just try and watch everywhere.
Be paranoid about your daily
Be
lives.
paranoid. Yeah. They are coming.
Thanks so much, though, Chris.
Oh, you're very welcome, Linz. Until next time. Bye, everybody.
Bye. Ow!
Oh.